So, welcome everyone. Let us begin. So, if anyone would like to read the opening aspiration for all of us, that would be really nice.
With boundless compassion and wisdom, I will work for the welfare of all. May we be free from hunger and discord and have joy and a world at peace.
Yeah, thank you, Ritu. So, today we have to just read a last few lines of the verse 2, which was about abandoning native homeland, abandoning how we usually react and behave. And since we live around familiar people, familiar surroundings, so we tend to fall into usual habits of behavior, which at times may serve us good, but at times maybe it feels like their time is over, and we have to maybe switch to more skillful patterns. So the verse 2 was about this, to abandon our native land from time to time, and not to become too comfortable in the set grooves in which we react and behave. So today we'll just be ending that, and then we'll be taking up the verse 3, which is on solitude, and again, very beautiful. So just last page, we will read and take up some more reflections on verse 2. And before we go ahead to reading the commentary over it, let's go through. No, not this one. Sorry. Yeah, let's read the verse again and then we can read the last page that is left of it. Its commentary. Yeah, so if anyone can just read at the moment this verse for us, would be really good.
Yeah, should I? I don't see if somebody. Yeah.
Yeah, go ahead. Yeah, please.
Yeah. In my native land, waves of attachment to friends and kin surge. Hatred for enemies rages like fire. The darkness of stupidity, not caring what to adopt or avoid, thickens. To abandon my native land is the practice of a Bodhisattva.
So let's go through starting from page number 24. Those who have the book, 24 and 25, we will read. Starting from likewise, we can make new channels. Yeah, so please unmute anyone who is ready to read. Okay, so Taru, you can maybe continue if no one
Yes, please. I like, yeah. Likewise, we can make new channels. We can create new pathways. Imagine a forest with the familiar path that we always use. After a while, this path becomes well worn, compacted, and clear. So we know exactly where we are. For instance, somebody says something unkind and we get all upset, angry, and hurt, which is just the ego being sad that people don't love it. We don't want to go on that unprofitable road that doesn't lead anywhere. We want to go on this new road of skillful responses, but there isn't yet a road. We have never before tried this new road of thinking. Well, thank you. I'm glad that you are so horrible because now I can practice patience. We don't have a road in our brain for that one. So we have to create one. We start to go along this new road, but then the grass springs back and it doesn't look like we ever went that way before. But if we keep going along this same path every day, eventually we will create a road. I'll continue, yes? Yeah. Then gradually the grass and flowers start pushing up through the old pathway that seemed so permanent. And after some time, we don't see a pathway anymore. The new way has become the pathway. But this only comes from repeated effort. It doesn't happen overnight. It just doesn't. Anyone who promises that it is all effortless is just deceiving you, because these habits are deep inside our psyche like thick, deep roots. It takes a lot of conscious awareness and effort and determination to transform. But the good news is we can all change. Of course, we can. As the Buddha said, yes, we can change. If we could not change, I would not tell you to do so. But because you can, I say for goodness sake, get on with it, or words to that effect. But it is important to remember that nobody, not even the Buddha, can do it for us. It is up to us. Teachers can help, they can guide, and they can encourage, but they cannot do it for us. If they could, they would. We must accept that we are responsible for our own heart mind, even though other people are there to help us, either by being kind and encouraging or by being absolutely awful and obnoxious. Either way, they are genuine spiritual friends, as the text will explain. We recognize that these three poisons inside our heart, our attachment, our hatred, and our basic unknowing or ignorance, are the cause of our suffering in samsara. It is not out there, it is inside us. We can do something about it. This is the whole message. We don't need to discard anything, thinking it is an obstacle to practice. In fact, everything is a help to our practice if we have the right attitude. It is a matter of changing our responses. That's all. I just want to add that, that line, that now that we know that that road is not taking me anywhere. Like, I keep going on it, I keep going on it, but there has to be at one point realization that I'm just in this loop, right? Like I just go and I'm back. I'm just like, I'm just nothing that I'm going towards. There is no transformation, no progress, no growth. And lot of times it's frustrating because we blame the circumstances or the person, right? That why does it have to be this way? That I keep getting stuck. The other person keeps behaving. The keep 20 साल हो गए हैं, and he responds the same way. And we don't see the irony or the humor in the situation when I'm complaining, ke, this is what is happening. That I too am the same from the last 10, 15, 25 years, whatever, walking the same path and expecting to reach somewhere different. So that was very nicely said that now that we know it's not taking me anywhere, I can and I must. Yeah, thank you.
I would just like to share my experience because I'm also very much interested in Buddhism as well. In Buddhism, what I feel is that this, and here we read that, how there's this insistence on making a constant effort and a determination that one has to change itself. So I always feel that there's and it's not only here, but in other Buddhist texts as well, this idea of tapasya, that we understand that the insistence is on tapasya. Somehow I have felt that a habit which is very deeply ingrained, and not even habit, but a very deep vital emotion or some frustration that's there. Um, no matter how much I really try to change it by myself, I try to um, really be vigilant about it, and how it's constantly being explained. It doesn't really, sometimes it doesn't just really open the lock for me. And that is why I was really drawn to integral yoga, because people are familiar with it in this group, so I'm sharing it. This idea of surrender. And here, personally, it has worked for me that things that we really cannot achieve from tapasya or our own constant effort of changing ourselves. The key for me has been surrender, where you just offer it to the divine, to the universe, where you're conscious about it and you know that tapasya is not really helping as well. It's just a beautiful practicing of just offering and surrendering it, and how sometimes in an instant it changes. I don't even have to do anything, and how it changes. I think for me that was really beautiful. So just something that.
Yeah, and it resonates with what we just read, because there, when we are talking of surrender, in these little bits and pieces of our life, then in the moment that I am surrendering that tendency or pattern, or the, I don't know, the bogusness that has entered my life, when I'm surrendering that, seeing that, oh my God, no matter how much I put effort, this is beyond my effort, so I offer it. I So what we are actually doing is, again, just relating it to what we just read, I am not following the dictate of that pattern or tendency. And that very choice of not following the dictate makes me shift to a newer path which is not so far being taken by me. That so far I've been always following that reaction, that impulse, that tendency, that kind of a thinking, that kind of a feeling, you know. But as Saru was sharing, that as if I'm stuck in a loop if I go that way again and again. So this time, what do I say when I'm on this crossroad? I say that today I choose, in this moment, I choose not to follow the dictate of that thinking, feeling, or whatever pattern, and I offer this to you. So immediately, as if you're, walking a new path, which Jetsunma was sharing, that that path now has not been trodden so far. It's like full of grass and it's not a well-paved path. But as you begin to, every time that tendency, which is a disturbing one, which is not benefiting you, every time you choose a newer path, that's what you are doing. You are making a new channel, and you are letting go of the older paths which now are not benefiting. So yes, yeah, that completely resonates. Yes. Yeah, anyone else wants to add on anything on what we just read and shared? I think often I feel that it's like, again, building upon what Taru was sharing in the beginning, that this stuckness that we feel, that we are just repeating the same loop again and again. I think that also is so beautiful, because we don't like to be there after some time. So as if, and what mother says, one has to be really disgusted with one's old self if something new has to really happen. And so long as that disgust does not take place, somehow something in me is not ready to move on and cross over, as if I'm just like, like stuck somewhere and repeating that same pattern, same loop again and again, thinking in the same way, feeling in the same way, creating similar, explanations in my mind. But now I feel so disgusted, like tired of being there, like a hamster, runs on the same wheel over and over and over again. And once I see myself being stuck like a hamster, and I don't take delight in it, I feel disgusted by it, then something new can happen. That when I say that no, not anymore, not anymore. And then what the Sunma was sharing, I can take a newer path which benefits me, which requires courage, and also I feel disgust is also part of that courage, because otherwise I don't feel compelled to do, if not for that disgust, which I just cannot tolerate anymore. Yeah.
I wanted to add to that. At least from
Mm-hmm.
my experience, what I have seen is that disgust, that you are tired of that pattern arises, but even then it's not 0 and 1, like not a linear process. At least for me, even then, like even then, there there have been times when there's like utter disgust in a way that this is not something that I want. But then even then, getting few days later, you see yourself that you've gone down the same path. And at least, I mean, just to put it out there, that this at least is my experience, that
Yeah, very true, very true. And again, I think we have to see it moment by moment. So in one moment, that disgust may lead me to exploring something new. And in another moment, I may be just back in my older patterns. So yes, totally with you. Yeah. And it has a purpose, which we read with Mother Sri Aurobindo, that this coming and going forward and backward and forward, this has a purpose. And it's okay. It's completely a path, like part of the path. It's nothing that should not be happening. That's, yeah. So for a complete victory to happen, a lot of back and forth and back and forth and back and forth, you know, like Sri Aurobindo shares in his poem, The God's Labor. He says that every enemy slain revives again. Every battle fought has to be refought. through vistas of fruitless life. So we are not alone in this. We are all together. Yeah. And it appears when we are talking, like it appears Arya Par, but in one moment it's Arya Par. In one moment it can happen that it's binary. But if we look at like a lots of moments together, then of course it is not linear. So that pendulum like movement will happen, yeah, which is okay. But even there, if like so for example, even just like stretching the example, if we have 10 moments, and in those 10 moments I used to behave just the older way, being very disturbed, using all the wrong patterns which are not now anymore serving me. So those 10 moments were always disturbed, if I have total 10 moments at once. But now what I see, that I become conscious that, oh, in this very moment, maybe in the third moment, I became conscious, but I don't want to be here. And just letting go, shrugging it off my shoulders and choosing something new. So in now those moments increase in their number at times. Again, I may go back to zero, but they have a probability of increasing in number, that out of 10 moments, now in 3 moments at least, I'm able to recognize and choose a newer beneficial pattern. And then in another 10 moments, it may happen again that I'm back to zero. But overall, if we see a larger picture, then in greater moments, relatively, I will be conscious, and if I do repeatedly, again and again, then there is a greater chance that I am giving the newer skillful pattern a chance to emerge, rather than just following the old trail again. Yeah. So that's about verse 2. Any last comments on verse 2 before we move on? Okay. So now at least I felt that with this verse, I think we at least have, like, as if we are hammering in our head again and again, that, see, look, I have a choice. Look, I have a choice. Every moment I have a choice. Now, in how many moments I am able to make use of that choice, that is perfectly okay. Doesn't matter much. But I know now I have a choice. I'm not a victim of circumstances. I can be responsible for how I behave in each circumstance, irrespective of the circumstances. So that's very helpful, because we forget. We may read books, but we forget. So it's like this hammering into our being, I feel, is very, very important. Because at times it's like when we are wondering that, why didn't it strike me? Why didn't it strike me? Because I've been reading about it, because we are so forgetful that even after reading many, many books and good masters and mystics, we forget that we have an option. We can choose how to behave, how to react. So that was, yeah, that was really good to remind ourselves. Now, this verse 3, um, we'll just read this verse and then I'll share something else. Verse 3 is about benefiting from solitude. And whenever we talk about solitude, many conceptions may come into our mind. Is it a physical solitude that I go away from everyone? Is it like finding my solitude within crowd and confusion? Or is it a solitude in my mind? What kind of a solitude are they talking of? And that is what will become clear for us as we will go through the commentary and also some other additional things. Yeah, so maybe one of you, if one of us can read the verse, that would be good. Just the verse.
I can read it. When unfavorable places are abundant, disturbing emotions gradually fade. When there are no distractions, positive activities naturally increase. As awareness becomes clearer, confidence in the Dharma grows. To rely on the solitude is the practice of a Bodhisattva.
Yeah, thank you. So we'll hear something from Thomas Merton on solitude, which I found was very, very beautiful, really very touching and beautiful. So we may not be able to hear it full. It's about 29 minutes long, the whole thing. But yeah, maybe a bit of it to reflect upon and take something home we can do. And let me adjust this and then okay.
Physical solitude, exterior silence, and real recollection are all morally necessary for anyone wanting to lead a contemplative life. But like everything else in creation, they are nothing more than means to an end. And if we do not understand the end, we will make a wrong use of the means. We do not go into the desert to escape people, but to learn how to find them. We do not leave them in order to have nothing more to do with them, but to find out the way to do them the most good. But this is only a secondary end. The one end that includes all others is the love of God. How can people act and speak as if solitude were a matter of no importance in the interior life? Only those who have never experienced real solitude can glibly declare that it makes no difference, and that only solitude of the heart really matters. One solitude must lead to the other. However, the truest solitude is not something outside you. not an absence of people or of sound around you. It is an abyss, opening up in the center of your own soul.
Yeah, so that was Thomas Merton. Somebody was reading his lines, and I think from one of his books. Now maybe we can pick up a bit from the book itself, verse 3. And then I thought it would be also nice to see what Mother and Sri Aurobindo talk about solitude. So that also we'll touch upon later after we maybe at one point, right opportune moment, we can see when we want to touch that. So yeah, let's go ahead. Yeah, anyone who feels like reading it out for us is welcome to read.
I can read this. When speaking about this verse, Dilgo Gyaltse Rinpoche said, when you live in a solitary place, your negative emotions gradually diminish and your self control and moderation increase. These texts were written for monks and hermits who typically live in solitary places. But we can also understand this in a deeper way. It doesn't just mean outer solitude, it also means an inner solitude. When unfavorable places are abundant, disturbing emotions gradually fade. The point is, what are unfavorable places? Shall I go ahead? The foundation of Buddhism is renunciation. In Tibetan, the word for renunciation is ningzhu, which means to really get out of something. If you are serious about becoming the masters of our minds instead of slaves of our emotions, if we are dedicated to leading a life that will be benefit for ourselves and others, then we have to be selective. We cannot do everything in this lifetime. We cannot spend all our nights partying and then get up at 5 in the morning to do our practice. Well, we would, but it wouldn't work very well. We have to decide in our lives what is really important to us and what is not. Then simplify. This is renunciation.
Yeah, you can maybe go on and
Yeah,
complete this one. Yes.
yeah. Renunciation is looking at our life and our activities and recognizing what is counterproductive to our spiritual path, what is a distraction, and what encourages the growth of the negative emotions and discourages the growth of positive ones. Then we can decide that we are not interested in going along with that anymore. In English, the word renunciation conveys a sense of gritting our teeth and giving up something that we really want but know we shouldn't have. When I was 18 and became a Buddhist, I gave up Elvis Presley. I gave away all my records and magazines thinking that was a renunciation, but that's not really what renunciation means.
Yeah, and maybe this one also goes along with what you are reading. So
Hmm.
please take this as well. Yeah.
When we are young and we have favorite toys like teddy bear, we take that teddy bear around with us everywhere and we really love Teddy. Even though Teddy is dirty and scruffy and he's lost an eye, we love him. If someone tries to take Teddy away from us, it hurts. Something in our heart is torn out. We are not ready to give up Teddy. But as we get older, our interest in our children's choice fades away. We are just not interested anymore. We have replaced them with computer games or whatever, but we have shifted our object of desire. We have got different interests. Now, if we lose a teddy bear, so what? We have outgrown him.
Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so any thoughts and reflections are most welcome.
I wanted to say something here. When he says that when you live in a solitary place, your negative emotions gradually diminish. Just want to add that that's true, but maybe I'm misunderstanding it. But in my experience, that's also because there are no external triggers or fewer external triggers. So to me, yes, I mean it's one way of reducing that inner instability, and that's helpful. I have found it to be helpful to retreat and not be in the middle of everything that's difficult. But but as soon as you go back to difficult external situations, you're swayed. So that's not really the most in the long run, I mean, that's not also the
Yeah,
most
so there is
helpful.
one point here. Now, this is for people who are on the spiritual path. And people who are on the spiritual path will always try to take the best possible attitude. That's what spirituality is. If we reduce it to a minimum, that I would want to take the best possible attitude. Let me take the best possible attitude. So when I'm going in a hermitage or doing a retreat, and yes, totally right, when the external triggers are not there, you know, then it's not that I'm just the same person as I was or I used to be, so that when I come out of the retreat, I'm exactly the same as I entered into the retreat. The very point of retreat is to, as we were hearing Thomas Merton, and that he says that we don't go into retreat or we don't escape the world because we want to escape the people. We escape from the world for some time because we want to do our best to them. And being totally triggered all the time, we don't have that space and contemplation in which I can find the best way possible. So, retreat only is helpful. Totally agree with you. Retreat only is helpful when in the retreat I'm contemplating on my behavior, ways in which I live, and I want to be actually when I come out of the retreat and when those triggers come back, I want to be a changed fellow. Then only retreat is helpful. Otherwise, we have vacations of all sorts. All of us know. We go to travel, Maldives and this and that. We are having fun. The person who goes, mostly in most of the cases, is the person who comes back. Hardly any change has happened. So although I had explored and everything, good fun and eating and food and all that, but it's the same person. So I have not worked on myself while I'm traveling and in retreat or just being away from those usual triggers which are there. But for people who are now on the spiritual path, who want to live a life which is beneficial, for me and others, then if they go into retreat and they are taking time off, to those people who is, these are for the Bodhisattvas, 37 practices of the Bodhisattvas. That's what we are reading. So the Bodhisattva is a person that who knows that if I want to benefit myself and others, I have to reflect on the life that I am living. So if I go into retreat, then I reflect on the ways in which I continue to behave when the triggers are there. So not only just removing the thought is there, reflecting over the thought and patterns is also there. Both Shamta and Vipassana, both are there. So I'm not just going to become a cow, dumb cow, when I'm going into retreat. So turning is taking place, and I'm reflecting over the ways in which I used to live or would want to live. Then retreat is helpful. Otherwise, you are correct, that it's only that the triggers are not here and I feel peaceful, but that peace can be actually made use of, for reflection, for contemplation, because there is more space that we have. Yeah, yeah. It's like when I'm in the middle of all those triggers, it's like I have wounds all over my body, and all the time someone or the other is sprinkling salt on those wounds. That doesn't help. I have to recognize that I am wounded. And what happens that we are wounded, or we all have experience, even if it's a physical wound. What do? We protect that space which is wounded, either by wrapping it up so that it is not triggered again and again and again from external influences, because it hurts again and again. So either I wrap it up, the wound, so that it is not in the touch of external triggers, because I know it is sensitive, or I just keep it like away, like from external triggers. Just like I had a burn and I was healing from that burn in my hand. So when I was taking a shower, I had to keep my hand like this because I didn't want the water to be put on that wounded place. You know? So that's a retreat that is happening for that wound where it is healing. But if my hand is there and I'm there also, I'm putting some water and triggers over there, then it doesn't make sense. It can't be called a retreat. So some healing is happening, some inner work is happening. And at times, we all know that taking a physical break is definitely of some importance. It's not that all the time it has to be there, because otherwise we have no way to test ourselves, how we are when we are with people. Has anything substantial changed in us? So that cannot be the only way, but it can be a very well used way for healing. When we know that some wounds are there and any external trigger just is like a salt on that wound and I'm hurt again and again. So it's an act of kindness when I am putting myself away for some time in seclusion and working on it and trying to recover from that wound. Yeah, any more thoughts?
Yeah, one thing in that talk that you shared by Thomas Merton, there was this line that we go away so that we can be better, right? So that we can be more, I don't know, worth to be where we are, which we are not when we are in those complicated, muddly, kind of twisty things that we create around ourselves. So last week I had gone someplace, I know somebody referred to an article by someone that how Buddha's leaving was so easy, right? Oh, Buddha, he did nothing, right? He just left, and it's us for whom the difficulties are there. Like, first of all, that's a different scenario, but sometimes stepping back or giving a distance or not actually being there is the most compassionate or the most wisest thing you can do, so that you can be there better, so that everybody can be better, right? Like, and we don't see that usually, because for us it's said that okay, you are there, that means you care. You're there, that means you're taking care of your responsibility, right? Buddha, he took, what did he do? Oh my god, he left a newborn baby. Like, those are the eyes also through which we judge and then comment, not knowing like even ABC, and we are saying all that. So just this thing that the withdrawal is there, so that when the presence is again there, it's more, I don't know, joyous, more authentic, right? Like purer and simpler. Yeah, thank you.
I think we also associate, uh, just talking of our tradition, upbringing, and all that, we also associate, as you said, when one is not talking, one does not care. Because as a child, we have all played, there's a kutti, like this, I used to do, that I'm not talking to you, I'm not your friend. And we don't like it, we think that, oh my God, as if we have lost a part of our own self. My friend is not talking to me, and how to make sense of that. So we associate when people go away, as you were sharing, we associate that with that they are not loving. They don't approve of us, and since we are always looking for approvals outside of us, so that really doesn't resonate very well with us when people are maybe wanting some time for themselves. But if we ourselves begin to take time out for our own self, and we see how beneficial it is, and how uh, important it is to from time to time have some time for our own quiet and solitude, then we actually can appreciate the other person also taking that time out. So only then we can appreciate. Otherwise, we'll always be blaming each other, for wanting to, yeah, take care of ourselves. So charity begins at home. If I'm taking care of my own self and I know that it benefits, then I can also appreciate that that space and physical space and freedom would also be beneficial for the other, no matter whether the other person may realize it right now or not. Because at times we are operating from the emotional self, which is very agitated when something like this is taken away. Like, oh, my friend is taken away, So a lot of agitation is there. We have always anchored ourselves on other people around us. So if we can give ourselves more time, then a time will come that we dissociate from that emotional, vital disappointment, and we enter into a space which is like I'm ease, at with myself. Yeah, and not uneasy when something outward I'm not getting. Yeah, so it's beneficial for all of us. But only I think I feel that, I don't know, just the limited window through which I'm seeing right now, it feels that if I have benefited from solitude, then only I can appreciate others taking them time out, and also like feeling a respect, in fact, for the other person, that how nice that the other person is also taking care. If I have myself not tasted it, then how would I be able to appreciate? If somebody else is saying that, oh, take boiled food, it has changed my life. I cannot appreciate until I experiment with it and I actually see the benefit of boiled food. Then I can resonate that yes, yes, you were right. I really appreciated boiled food. Not saying that we only have to take boiled food, but just taking an example. Yeah, any change that we want to make, if we have to practically test it out, experiment with it, then we can appreciate that how beneficial or non-beneficial can it be. Yeah. Yes. So this is also very interesting what Jetsunma was sharing, that what is true renunciation, because as she was sharing that whenever we talk of renunciation, we always kind of think of a sense of that as if I have to lose something, oh my God, I don't want to give it away right away. And something is being taken away. I have to renounce, some sacrifice, a feeling of sacrifice. And what she is sharing here is a very different, radically different meaning of renunciation, that she's sharing that true renunciation is one in which we just naturally drop off the older thing that doesn't resonate anymore. We all have, that those experiences. When we were children, when I was small, I used to love ice cream, that too cone ice cream. Wherever I go, I have to have cone ice cream, like really passionate about that, mad after that. And slowly, 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 now I look at the cone ice cream and it doesn't even appear that it has to go into my mouth. so, so because now there are newer tastes that I have developed, not in terms of eating, but maybe reading a word of Sri Aurobindo and Mother, that maybe suffices, for example. So I don't feel the need to take the ice cream in my mouth. At times I may do, but it's not out of that, it's giving me fulfillment. So I don't need to renounce ice cream right now, but it got renounced on the way as I ripened and matured, and something new happened, which gave me more fulfillment than those times where the ice cream was the only source of fulfillment, or whatever, indulgence. So that's what she's sharing here, that it's like a teddy bear, when we are little, we all have our favorite toys. And if mother is saying that, oh no, you have to renounce, give it to me, it will hurt me, it will not cause me pain. But when I grow up and develop other interests and hobbies, then I don't wonder much about that teddy bear anymore. And that's true renunciation. And that is why mother says that give yourself a higher aim. And depending on the quality of your aim will be the quality of your life. So as we gradually progress in our life, and give ourselves different, as per our growth, different aims, one has something to look forward to. Depending on that becomes the quality of our life. And then the older is just dropping like a dead skin. You don't need it anymore. And you're not even saying that I'm renouncing. It is just renounced by the side effect of growth. So that's true renunciation, what Jetsunma is sharing here. It's not a feeling of sacrifice when we are renouncing. It's a feeling of that we have done that enough. We have been there enough. So we now want to go on, move on. Yeah, so anything here, anyone, until this?
Just so many times we hear this, that the true renunciation or the true letting go is not of outside. Gita and spoken at length about it. That the true renunciation is from inside. And you don't have to really detach yourself from relationship, from your house, from your children, but you have to really detach from your heart, that attachment that we form. And sometimes I feel it's very hard. It's something that attachment is really hard, and it often disguises in different forms. And so that really resonated with me, because sometimes I think when it's not really happening, and when you know it's there, then sometimes instead of really even trying to detach yourself internally, what you can do is really to just keep progressing. Because what she's saying is that as you progress on the path of dharma, it will automatically happen. There's no conscious effort to detach. Because I feel, in the sense, like for myself, I sometimes feel that some things happen on its own. When you are progressing on this path, you try to understand it in hindsight. You'll not be able to join the dots looking forward, but when you look back, you can see, oh yeah, that happened. So that's something I really liked about what she said, that as you progress, the main focus should be to progress on the path of dharma, and everything else will follow. Like that teddy bear, which you always thought is so important, you can never share it, but now after 10-15 years, it doesn't really matter to you.
Yeah. Yeah. Anyone else? Yes. Okay, so I'm taking the liberty of sharing with us a few words from the mother, maybe just to get more expansive view on solitude and knowing that everything has a proper place, and anything when it's extended too much, it becomes, again, we stick to it. So it would be nice to just go through these lines. So the questioner is saying that I feel that in solitude, I could remain more open and receptive. And mother says, if by solitude you mean not seeing people anymore than is indispensable, and not speaking with them unless it is absolutely necessary, then we are agreed, like we are on the same ground. And if we look at our lives, we see that there is a lot of, like, tremendous amount of drainage of energy that we do in the name of social relations and family ties, and I don't know, things that have to be done and have to be shown and pretended to. So that mother is saying that not seeing people anymore then is indispensable. So not overindulging in these kind of affairs where mostly only gossip happens. Yeah, more than indispensable means whatever is needed, really required, only that kind of a talk happens, or only that interaction happens. It's not a interaction where you're just like frivolously meeting people and inter- engaging in interactions which don't give you anything, but you are just engaging because they are just social relations and you have to. So since it is said to sadhaks who are wanting to do integral yoga, so for them it's necessary to maintain a certain sense of sanctity and purity in the being, that we don't indulge in gossip or rumors and just discussion which is very frivolous, very here and there, and you don't really get anything out of it. So indispensable, that which is absolutely needful, only those people are seen and only those interactions are done. And then mother also adds that not speaking with them unless it is absolutely necessary. So then mother says that yes, then we are on the same ground. And when we are in that attitude, we are more open and receptive, when we are not indulging in frivolous affairs. And what is frivolous? If we are honest, we will know. Nobody has to tell what is frivolous and what not. We all know. We have a knowing which tells us, yes, this was frivolous. So, yes. And this also resonated very well with what Thomas Merton was sharing in that talk that we heard, or video that we were looking at, where he says that in the solitude of soul, that's the true solitude. So mother says, yes, a questioner asks, allow me to observe silence, let me go into solitude. And mother says, observe silence in your mind and go into the solitude of your psychic being, and you will find me there. Which exactly resonates with what we were listening of Thomas Merton and looking at the words, like the thoughts from him, that it's the solitude of the soul that's most important. And at times it helps when there is a physical separation, because as some of us were sharing, that when we are always surrounded by attachments, it's very difficult to transcend. So in between, if we can take periods where we are a nobody, when I'm away from those relations which usually I'm tied up with, when for a moment I am away from them, it helps me to be nobody, to shed off those roles for a moment and to just regain something new in me. And again, when I go back in that situation, I can be a different person and more maybe skillful. Why does this feel renunciation and not becoming better? Yeah, I think it's a, don't you think it's like a part of it, that if I want to be better to people, which I want now, if I want to behave in a way which is benefiting me and others, at times it helps to disengage. That space I feel is very important. So that distancing, and that space helps me to reflect over my actions and reactions and the way I behave. And then when I go back and interact again, then I can be better. What is my intention? But mostly we find that, especially in very close relations, it's very, very challenging if the triggers are all around all the time and you're not having any space for yourself. It's very challenging to behave in a better way. Very, very challenging. Because all the times from every side, you're just reminded of that role. So it's good to first like lose all roles and to be a nobody so that I can be in the role and I can perform better. Yeah. Yeah, so again, a different perspective here, which I really appreciated. And again, some masters have appreciated this in their own words. So the question is, should I spend some time in solitude? And Mother says it is the old methods of yoga which demand silence and solitude. The yoga of tomorrow is to find the divine in work and in relation with the world. Look within yourself, reflect upon it, and tell me what your choice is. Still, Mother is not forcing. See, we have to see this. She is asking that tell me what is your choice. Do you want to follow that older path or do you want to take up the new path? And again, the newer path does not mean that there has to be lack of silence and solitude. We have to see that. Because in many, many answers, we will see that Mother is almost like suggesting against excessive indulgence in talks and irrelevant affairs, and emphasizing the silence of the mind also. But parallelly, Mother also shares that it is in the work, in action, that we have to manifest our realization. So, not making anything a formula, just looking at the expansive view. Yeah, this was also very, very beautiful, I thought, and very like full of warning, like a red signal. According to my experience, and this is Mother, according to my experience, people fall into tamas when they go into solitude. And that is why Mother is saying that excessive solitude also, please don't indulge in that, because we are not advanced yogis that we can be alert when in solitude. And usually, in ordinary consciousness, we have a tendency to fall into tamasic peace, and not a progressive peace, when we are too much in solitude and not engaged much in action. So that is why in ashram or in letters to various disciples, devotees, we see that always integration of the divine in our work has been emphasized. So that's very, very important. Otherwise, in the name of meditation, we are just sleeping. We have just become like a dumb person in the name of meditating. So to avoid that, it is very important that in our interactions and work, we see the change happening. Because tamas can really overwhelm. All of us know how much, inertia, like dullness that covers us up. Very heavy. Yeah. And then one feels that, I don't feel the need to change myself. I'm okay, I'm doing fine. No need to change. But when we interact, when we have workplace interactions, family interactions, and we are reflecting over our own behavior, then we see that, still not a true understanding is there. So yeah, it's good to be in action. Through that, we can understand better our own self. So Mother says to be by oneself very much needs a certain force of inner life. So like an inner calling is there that I want to be with myself. That can be there with some individuals. It may be better to vary solitude with some kind of its opposite. So both, like doing a balance. But each has its advantages and disadvantages, and it is only by being vigilant and keeping an inner poise that one can avoid the latter. One can avoid the disadvantages. Yes. And here she says that entire physical retirement is seldom healthy, although a temporary retirement is often helpful. This is what we were talking of, that from time to time, if I get time to shed off my roles and be a nobody, that rejuvenates me. Without those roles and personalities, I find myself rejuvenated, then I can enter back again. So temporary retirement is often helpful, but the main thing is the inner detachment and complete turning to the divine. So even when I am in retreat or doing a temporary retirement, it can happen that nothing changes and I'm the same person when I come back. But uh, she says that the main thing is that when we are in retreat, where is my turning, like inward turning? Where is it happening? What am I connecting to? Am I connecting to still the storylines in my head, or am I connecting to the divine when I'm retreating? Because and this, I think we have touched upon this in various sessions, asking where is the mind resting. If the mind is resting in the same old patterns and thoughts and storylines, then hardly any new thing is happening, even when I'm taking rest. But if the mind is resting in the divine, in silence, in the divine, then when the mind rises out of that rest, it's a transformed mind, it's a different mind, it's a better mind, connected much better to the source. And again comes, the solitude of my soul. And Mother says, certainly, this is the surest way to find me, which we also uh, heard in Thomas Merton's thing. Yeah. Yeah, so if any thoughts are there, we can take maybe. And if not, I think it's a good time to pause here because we have some material to chew upon, to contemplate, reflect upon, to meditate upon. And this much is enough for reflection, not taking too big a bite at once. Yeah. So, any last comments or thoughts, anyone? Okay. So I'm assuming nothing at the moment. And before we leave, as always, just taking one last moment to share and dedicate all our merit that we have accumulated, sharing and dedicating the merit with all the sentient beings. May we have peace in our hearts, simplicity in our minds, and lots of joy, contentment, and progress in our life. May everyone be fulfilled fully. Thank you. Thanks, everyone.